Hey everyone, Walter TGB here, back with another travel video, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest tourist traps, scams, or just disappointing attractions here in the Netherlands. So let's jump right into it. Now with number 5, I'd like to give a little disclaimer that I'm not saying all of these places are totally irredeemable, but I tried to focus on finding places where they have a sort of specific audience, but even with regard to that niche, they don't really succeed at all. And even if you like the things that they're going for, there are better alternatives. So with that being said, the first stop on our list is the Kröller Müller Museum in the Hoge Veluwe National Park in Otterlo, which is the closest big city is Arnhem. Now, this is a beautiful national park that I really recommend going to for the nature, but I also went to this museum when I was there. And I'm not an art guy, I'm not a modern art guy by any means, but comparing this place to other art museums I've been to in Europe and even just in the Netherlands, I gotta say it's really quite underwhelming, especially for the €13 entry fee. A lot of the modern art here was actually laughable. It was like something that they'd put in a sitcom as a way to make fun of modern art. And I'm not joking. For example, just a couple of pieces of metal precariously squished together with then brown paint smeared on it. And I don't have to tell you what it looks like. Your imagination can do the rest. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you're paying to see. Now, there is some cool and some actually kind of iconic stuff here, but generally, if you're in Europe or even just in the Netherlands, there's much better stuff that you can find in Rotterdam, Amsterdam, or even Den Haag. We have a huge museum here, the Kunstmuseum. You can find plenty of art from new to old. So why not just go there instead of going all the way out to this national park for that, especially if you're a foreign tourist. Now, if you're going here anyway and you really like modern art, you could still check it out, but don't miss out on the Jachthuis Sint Hubertus. It's a very underrated tourist attraction within the national park that is miles better than this. So if you have to do one, definitely go with this. And if you're really not a modern art guy, then skip it. And now at number 4, we actually have something here in The Hague. And I know I don't like to diss my own city, but if something sucks, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So what is it? Well, it's the Photo Museum. Now, I kind of like photography, and I've seen some really great pictures in museums and in tourist attractions that aren't even museums. Let me tell you, I've been to multiple attractions, museums and non-museums, that have better photography than the Photography Museum or Fotomuseum in The Hague. That's kind of insane, isn't it? An entire museum dedicated to photography, and it gets bested by some historical sites that aren't even focused on that subject. This is the most expensive place on the list. €16 entry fee, which I can assure you is not worth it in any universe whatsoever. It's right next to the miles better Kunstmuseum, where there's a huge variety of stuff to see, and it is actually worth the price of entry. This place, I don't even know what to say. It felt unfinished. I literally went through the whole thing in 25 minutes. One of the exhibitions was totally dark, and there was only one other person there who was a security guard who was just sort of slithering around looking at me weird while I'm looking at a bunch of damn pots on the wall for some reason. I don't know what the point was. I don't know what that has to do with photography, but that's what was there. And then the other one was in the basement, and it looked like a bunch of kids just got panels of glass and just wildly just glued them on the walls and the floors and then threw colored tape and paint all over the place. It looked like a mess. It did not look finished. I felt like I was walking through uncompleted parts of the museum. That's how bad it was. The only part of the museum that actually had people in it was an exhibition about like photos by Japanese women in the 50s, which if you really like that, fine. I didn't find it interesting at all. In fact, these are pictures of the photos I found interesting enough to take a picture of, and even those I didn't find particularly great. So yeah, this place is really, really lame, and you might think that it's actually the worst on this list because it is the most expensive and one of the most underdeveloped, but I will say it's only number 4 because if the exhibitions are different and there's something that you really like, then it could be a completely different story. You could love it. Maybe I just got hit with a terrible round of exhibitions, but even then, it's way overpriced and way too small. At number 3, we have something which actually is in my niche, so to speak, and that is the Eye Film Museum in Amsterdam. And let me just say, this whole area that surrounds it in Amsterdam Noord is full of tourist traps, including the Edam Lookout, for which you have to pay, I believe, between 15 and 20 euros just to go up an elevator and then swing out on a swing. I think the swing is actually extra. Not worth it at all. At all. That's absolutely insane. That's a total scam. And what is there to say? I mean, the Eye Film Museum is a total tourist trap. Unless you're going there to see a movie, which you could do in a movie theater, just so you know, you are going to basically get a special exhibition, which most of the time is about something nobody actually cares about, and the people who claim that they do they really care about that, or are they just saying they do so they look cool? And the permanent exhibit on what is film seems like it might be interesting, but it's basically one hallway. And I can sum it up by saying 3 things. 1, their movie trivia booths don't even work. They have fewer stuff in their entire permanent exhibition than in one room of the other film museums I've been to. And 3, iPhone in a glass case comprises about a 16th of the stuff on the main table that shows you the evolution of film cameras. An iPhone in a glass case. Isn't that all you need to know? But yeah, if you want a film museum, go to Frankfurt. That's amazing. That has stuff on movies you actually know. And go to Lyon. They have an animatronic xenomorph that moves around. What more could you want? But yeah, the Eye Film Museum, rip-off. Speaking of rip-offs in Amsterdam, the Nieuwe Kerk is ridiculously terrible. Not only is it boring even by Dutch church standards, and don't get me wrong, there are amazing churches in the Netherlands, but the Protestant churches that you'll find in a lot of cities that aren't particularly special, they are a little bit boring, let's be honest. They're more boring than your average German or French church, that's just a fact. But this one is, even by that standard, incredibly lame. It is extremely expensive compared to those. Most churches in this country are usually like 3 to 4 euros to enter, if they cost anything at all. The one in Utrecht is free, for example, and it's much better. This one is, I believe, 12.5 euros. That's insane, and it's incredibly lame. There's very little actual history to discover because they basically turned it into an art museum. But let me tell you what art you're gonna see. Basically nothing. The art that I saw, and I'm not making this up, was cornhole. Now, I left the US to escape my neighbors playing cornhole every Friday night. I didn't come here to once again be confronted by that monstrosity of a game. But lo and behold, if you want to play cornhole in an ancient church, have at it, psychopath. But yeah, a lot of these places really suck because they're lame and overpriced. But at number 1, we have something that is actually also overpriced, but the price is actually the lowest of all of the entries on this list at 6.5 euros. So doesn't seem that bad, right? And I guess I kind of got what I paid for. I'm talking about the Martini-toren in Groningen. The reason I hate this tourist attraction more than anything else is because of the way that it's organized. I can make a whole video on my horrible experience in the city of Groningen, but it really comes down to this one tower. I've climbed many church towers in the Netherlands, never had a problem. This is the only one that gave me grief. And no, it's not because it was too many steps. Not at all. It was because it is extremely narrow. I'm a little bit claustrophobic, but usually I'm fine with this kind of stuff. It is extremely narrow, extremely steep, not interesting once you get to the top because, sorry to break it to you, but the view is of Groningen. so who cares? And the cardinal sin is that they have people going up and down at the same time. They don't organize it at all, which leads to a lot of problems, and I can imagine it can get really, really bad if you have any sort of health problems, if any sort of emergency happens. I don't even want to imagine the absolute chaos that would ensue. And if someone hurts themselves and sues them, then they've just gotten some karma. So yeah, those were 5 things that I think were really disappointing in the Netherlands. I have a couple more if you'd like a follow-up video, or if you'd like to see me do something on my favorite tourist attractions in the Netherlands, or something about my most underrated tourist attractions in the Netherlands. Whatever you want me to talk about, give me your suggestions in the comments below. I'd love to see them. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be safe, and goodbye.